Whether you were just playing a game or growing up, you've always been told that you have to play with the cards you were dealt. But what if you didn't have to do this? What if you could choose which card you wanted to play? Well, with card drafting, that's possible. Card drafting is a game mechanism. Game mechanisms are ways that board game makers use to keep players engaged with the game. It's a way to have them interact with it. Most games have multiple mechanisms other than just card drafting. So how does card drafting work? Well, to start off, everybody has the same amount of cards, and then they choose one card and they'll pass the hand to the player next to them. This allows for more strategy in different games that we'll talk about later. So, for example, you start off with 3 cards, and you choose one. And then after that, you play it, and then you pass the other cards to the left or to the right. And then this process is repeated until there are no cards left in anyone's hand. The first game that does this style of card drafting is in Sushi Go. Sushi Go is a very simplified version of card drafting, but it's easier to understand if I explain it first. The goal of Sushi Go is to score the most points after 3 rounds. You score points by making sets and combinations. Different cards have different point values. Some people may want to play sushi rolls, and in order to do that, they'll play one card, and then they'll get somebody else's hand, and then based on what they got in that hand, it may change the way which cards they want to play. They may look at the person to their left that they'll pass the cards to, and see maybe they're trying to get sashimi. And so there's strategy involved in, hey, maybe I can play the sashimi so then they can't get points. Or you can just focus on trying to score the most points possible for yourself. The next game is very similar to Sushi Go, but the rules are a little bit more complex. And that game is 7 Wonders. The goal of 7 Wonders is to have the most victory points after 3 ages. In order to score these points, you need to play cards in order to build your civilization. The strategy involved in this game is that you have to decide whether you want to build your civilization or if you want to stop the person next to you building their civilization. And the way that this game, it rewards players more than Sushi Go did, is that if you choose a card that one of the other players want to play, you can end up discarding it for gold, instead of just playing it and maybe it won't score you points like in Sushi Go. And with the gold, you can buy resources in order to build your buildings. So instead of just harming the other players, you can affect them and affect yourself by choosing cards that may not fit your civilization the best. Or you can choose cards in order to have your civilization thrive and not worry about what other players are doing. A game very similar to this, but with a different strategy of card drafting, is the game Citadels. Much like the goal of the other 2 games, the goal in this game is to score the most points at the end of the game. The way card drafting is different in this one, though, is that one player starts with all of the cards. Now, this player can choose whichever one he wants, and then he'll end up passing the rest of the cards to the next player, so on and so forth. Now, you may think that this gives the first player an advantage, and it does. But however, it gives the last player an advantage too. Even though the last player may not get to choose from as many cards as the first person did, he'll choose from 3. He still will get to choose one card and then discard the other 2. And only he will be the person that knows which cards are not in play. So after they choose the card that they want, it gives them a certain ability, and then they can use those abilities in order to build their kingdom or civilization, just like in 7 Wonders. And also like 7 Wonders, Citadels is a far more complex game than Sushi Go is. So, card drafting makes gameplay fun. It allows for more strategy, and instead of just getting a random hand at the beginning, it makes the game more random and complex at the same time. It makes it so you don't know what the next step is going to be the entire time. And the two ways we talked about was swapping hands, where everybody plays or chooses a card and then passes the rest of their cards to the player next to them. And then where one person gets to choose from all the cards, and then they pass the rest of the cards to the next person, and so on and so forth, until the last person chooses from the least amount of cards possible. Even though both ways are a little bit different, it still allows for a different way for players to interact with games other than just passing the cards out. It keeps the players guessing, and the interactivity in the games is what brings players back to the game over and over again.